That's funny.
Yeah.
I was
So
really hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
families, my mom's side of the family, they're having a family hard to go family thing.
Yeah.
Although I love you.
So meeting ends.
Just you. I mean, I think it might be a lot of people just say.
I wasn't ready.
You don't get bored.
I was ready. I was like, getting that up.
Yes, well, I could just kayak across the bay, so, yes. Because William swam.
Took me by surprise, because I've never seen anyone I know.
Yeah. It's not a very.
Oh, okay.
That's like,
That's
yeah, I never asked. The wording itself. To me, that hamstring.
It does, yes.
We've been lucky as usual, but never had times when
Good, how are you?
Oh, yeah, it was like.
Something to kind of monitor the progress of keeping track of the settings.
Like up here.
That way too. Pull it out and say, here's where we're at.
Sometimes that's what
I like this one. Might say, you know, 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, city hall.
Just
Did you do the tour?
My impression is that song keeps going. We're always under pressure. Less is more.
Well, so the city of Charlevoix has a grant. They had an opening for their marina.
Police.
I think it was a little bit. Speed at which government.
How are you, Andrew?
How are you? Just jumping.
Well, he never
His
his background. His background was.
Unfortunately, I didn't have to go run with
He was like a parks program park manager for
always
the.
I saw him on a mountain, he was finishing up a mountain bike ride with Brian.
Well, because he's gone. Had a park, you take care of the park, if you need to do something, just do it. You want to make something better, you just do it.
You know, it's funny.
And so it's the idea of having an idea and having.
All right, I'm gonna try to get a hold of the whole.
And then having the committee debate and discuss.
Having better radar.
Of course.
Saw a couple walk by, just the back of her going away. She goes, and I said, she goes, I thought I might freak her out in a small town, chasing her around the sidewalk, saying, okay, so I'm good, my instincts were like, don't mess this up.
Okay. To handle the first you got off the airplane came to pizza.
Oh, it's an addition. We're putting on a 20-bed.
Might as well get that out of
living
there.
building.
Might as well get that out of the way.
No, I'm excited about it. It's been a long
She doesn't survive
time
that.
in the planning.
Put her back on the way.
And finally, actually,
Jane and dirt and
Francie
having
had
something
all the kids.
desperately needed. So.
Yeah.
That's how we should have
been that.
Yeah.
Well, our basement is the best, right? We had a whole bunch of tape.
Except we wanted to be such a.
Times.
we're being
Brian's.
You can watch this on YouTube.
So.
In 2 minutes before we have to try and deal with business, like. Some our locals that are. So I think everybody was. George Pete's happy to be here, Jack's gonna be here. I have a hard out at 7. Oh, they have more trouble than I am. Oh, he's not. So he's not in trouble fighting. He's over it. It is. How's it going, Chief? Yeah. I just, I mute the speaker, like the mine's old enough, it has like volume and.
Oh, yeah, I have that. Okay.
I
got
just
it.
hit that
Okay,
one.
I did it.
Thank
you.
Good evening.
Hello. George, how are you?
Good, how are you? Doing well. I believe Mark said he was not gonna be able.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Could that be Mark?
Is there another chair over here?
Apparently the new guy has to do the long.
Oh, I gave you the wrong one, I'm sorry.
Snow show.
All right.
Yeah.
5:30 by Apple time. Sorry.
I'm just 5:29.
How can I be on Apple time and not be the same as yours?
I don't
Is
know.
it an Android?
Nope.
Get it out of here.
5.5 hours to get
All right, we're going by your.
I go 5:29
Do you really?
I do.
5:29 also.
I have
How is that?
All right, we got 5:30.
That's not, I love it. All right. I wonder I was a minute early. Okay. Would you call roll, please?
Absolutely. Beth Rahali,
Here.
Mary Catherine Hammond,
Here,
Emily Dubay,
here.
Jack Deegan,
Here.
George Pete. Here. Bill Mulder,
Here.
Mark Bidet is absent, Andrew Bowman,
Here.
Al Dyken.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes, July 15th, 2021 meeting. Anyone have any corrections or comments on the minutes?
I don't know how specific you are, but I just.
Extremely.
Like Harbor Springs, 2 times at the beginning, it's not capitalized, so I didn't know if in that B section, discussion, housing, public input.
Oh, I see it there. She's right.
Uh-oh.
Oh my.
That's my bad. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
It's sitting back down
So
on
now-
the list.
It is.
Stuck here. Okay. Any other comments, corrections on the minutes?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we pass or accept the minutes as corrected.
We have support.
I will second. Oh, but you know what? Why don't you do it? You call
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
it.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Moving on to public comment and correspondence, for anything that's not on the agenda this evening.
I do have something.
Yes.
Mark Bidet at his building where Sam's Graces was, has a new business going in and they applied for a signage permit. And I had to deny a portion of it. They were asking for more than one sign. Now, I know that a couple of years ago, we modified the language in the zoning code for the central business district to allow for some more signage. That building is in the B1 district.
That's right.
And I know that Mark had brought that up at one point in time in the past, that it might be a good idea to look at language for signage in the B1 district to potentially make some changes to mirror some of the changes we made in the CBD. And now that we have an applicant that wanted to do signage similar to within the CBD, and I had to say no, I just wanted to bring that to your attention and see if we wanted to, at some point in the future, near future, look at making some changes, or if we're happy with how the code looks there. And main difference is the B1 district only permits one building sign, where in the CBD, it's still based on the same square footage formula, but they're limited to one sign, where within the CBD, they can have more than one sign, up to 4 signs by that language, so.
Why is it written that way?
That's a broad question.
That's a good question.
I think
Is
what
it
happened is
important?
we did, I think they were pretty much all that way. And then we changed CBD at the request of some business owners. And we probably didn't change it for B1 at the same time. So I think for the sake of moving this on tonight, I'd be in favor of in the fall, taking a look at the sign ordinance for B1, B2. If everybody's in agreement on that.
Are there other parts of B1, B2 that might be adversely affected or
The only
different?
thing I can
than-
think of is there are setbacks obviously in those 2 districts where you don't have that in CBD. So there might be a case where somebody whose building is further away may want something a little closer or something detached. But I think that we're going to get into more of a discussion tonight than we probably want to do with our agenda so far. But
Just a thought, I'll, when I come back with further stuff, we put it on the agenda, I'll have a map showing where the B1 and B2 properties are located, so we can discuss it more at that time.
Briefly, what's the business coming in? Just briefly.
It's like a design.
Design Center, it used to be out on the curve, and I think it moved, Harbor Design Center, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
The home finishes and materials, flooring, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other new or public comment or correspondence? Hearing none. New and old business. Presentation by Andy Shepard, Tolsdorf. Emmett County Recycling. The less I talk, the more we can learn from you, so.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me here today. I recently presented to Petoskey City Council something very similar. They worked on their master plan this spring. I saw that you guys were working on your master plan as well, so I offered to share some similar information. So I haven't had the opportunity to speak with you guys about Emmett County Recycling as a whole, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know who we are, what we do, so I won't get into that. On this first slide, we are proud to share that 97% of our recyclables that we accept here in Emmett County supply Michigan businesses. So that kind of leads into the conversation that I'm going to have about the circular economy. So if you want to go to the next slide. And so the circular economy is based on the principles of designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. So this quote comes from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a great resource. If you guys are looking for sustainability, master plan wording, stuff like that, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation does a lot on circular economy and has an entire section of the website and reports and stuff dedicated just to how cities can implement this kind of stuff. So the next one. So it's based on 3 principles. So the first one is designing out waste and pollution. So this is similar to, if you're thinking of reduce, reuse, recycle, this is similar to the reduce one. So you design it out, think of waste as a design flaw. If there's no waste in the first place, then you don't have to worry about where it goes at the end of its life. So reducing or designing it out in the first place isn't really anything that a city can necessarily do. It's a lot more in the manufacturing and kind of the bigger economy picture. So the next one is keeping materials and products in use. This is something where it can be done on more of a local level. One example is repair centers, repair cafes. I don't know if that's something like the library or another nonprofit or organization or school or something would be interested in. It's just having repair cafes, teaching people how to repair things, something as simple as bikes or clothing, that kind of stuff that can be repaired. Another thing is keep purchasing used products. I know at the county, it's not really in our county purchasing policy, so I'm not sure how the city works, but that's something else to keep in mind is just not everything needs to be purchased brand new. A lot of times it's beneficial if things are purchased new, but even looking at refurbished equipment, stuff like that. So the next one is regenerate natural systems. So this is kind of equivalent to the recycling. So the natural systems, one thing that both the city and us as Emmett County Recycling have opportunities to work together on is there's a lot of opportunities for managing organics and composting. So I know the city does yard waste collection and it goes up by Kiwanis. We also have compost facilities at our Pleasant View Road Drop-Off Center. And so I know in the past, the leaves have been brought to us. I think now you guys manage them yourselves. But just continuing to manage that kind of stuff using the finished compost. We have a finished compost product that can be used in tree plantings, flower bed plantings, side of roads and any road construction. So there's a lot of uses for compost. There's a lot of education that goes around with compost as well. So I don't know if there's any rules in the city for or against backyard composting, but we do host backyard compost workshops to make sure that they are done properly and done appropriately to make sure there aren't nuisances with animals or smells, that kind of stuff. We also sell compost bins, which at some point we could partner with the city and do a sale along with a workshop or something like that if you guys are interested. The next one is, so some statistics again from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Cities, and again, Harbor Springs isn't a big city, but it still contributes to this. So cities consume 75% of natural resources, produce 50% of global waste, and emit 80% of greenhouse gases. So there is an opportunity for cities to become involved in taking the next step to reduce some of this kind of waste. So where Emmett County Recycling plays in on this is we connect a lot of these dots. So city residents consume products. They consume water and a water bottle. They put it out either at the curb for collection, because the city of Harbor Springs provides curbside collection to its residents, or take it to the drop site up at the IGA or at the transfer station. So we provide the collection, we bring it back to our facility, we then sort the material. And so we do the collection, we do the sorting, we send it off to the end market for processing. So the water bottle example, we send it to Clean Tech in Dundee, Michigan, and they make AbsoPure brand water bottles specifically. So then that's where it gets remanufactured into a new water bottle, and then you could buy that water bottle again and continue to keep that circle moving. So there's a lot of places here where we can have our hands in this circular economy. Another really local example we have is this is pictures of cartons being recycled. So that's milk cartons, orange juice cartons, ice cream cartons, paper cups, your coffee cups, Starbucks cups, all can be recycled through Emmett County Recycling. So we have our tipping floor, we have them going up the baler, and then we have pictures of finished bales of our cartons. And then after they are baled and sorted, they go to Great Lakes Tissue right here in Sheboygan, which is one of our closest end markets. And they make paper towel, toilet paper, that kind of stuff. So last year they had a very busy year with all their toilet paper. But this is one of the things that you guys can participate in the circular economy, because they sell commercial toilet paper, commercial products that the city could buy with materials that were recycled right here in Harbor Springs. So this is a very, very closed loop and a story that we're happy to tell. So some examples specifically for here in Harbor Springs. I know you guys have installed solar panels. You guys are doing a great job with the energy efficiency, the alternative energy. So you guys are definitely on top of that. Public space recycling. So there's a couple of recycling bins down by the marina. There's definitely opportunities to expand that public space recycling. So up on Main Street, at other parks, at other city-owned facilities. Composting. So like I said, you guys do composting with your yard waste up at Kiwanis. There's probably 5 or 6 restaurants here in Harbor Springs that do food scrap collection that we collect on Tuesdays and Fridays in the summer, and collect the food scraps, take it back to our facility, compost it. And down the road, there could potentially be opportunity for residential compost collection. I know there's a lot of logistics to that, but that's something to keep in mind that could happen down the road. And then all this stuff does appeal to younger generations. People are looking for this kind of stuff. People like recycling, people like composting, people like to use compost, the finished product in their garden. So that all kind of, again, closes that loop. Other things that contribute to the circular economy beyond just recycling, so kind of general sustainability things. I know a big part of the circular economy is walkable, bike, and bikeable. I would say Harbor Springs does a pretty good job of that. There's plenty of walkers and bikers around town. I mentioned repair cafes already. Another one that there could be incentives for is reusable container programs. I think some bigger cities do that, where you can kind of restaurants can buy into a program where their to-go containers are reusable, and then you can drop them back off at a central location. Again, that might be a lot for Harbor Springs, but even to provide incentives to have non-styrofoam, to have compostable or recyclable to-go containers. And then purchasing policies throughout the city just to address recycled content, for example, like the toilet paper, or even just like printer paper, office paper, taking a look at that and purchasing policies. And then some other things, like I mentioned, expanding composting education with backyard compost workshops. And two other things that have come up is, which I'm not sure it would even be of interest to the city or not, township voucher program. So a lot of the townships used to do township cleanups where they either would have one day at the township hall, or some of the bigger ones contract with a waste hauler and they do curbside bulky pickup. And to save money, I think we now have 9 townships that have vouchers. So some of them pass them out to every single resident, others just give them away on demand. And it's good for 1 yard of cubic waste at the Pleasant View drop-off center. So the township is still paying for the material to be dropped off, but they're totally hands-off other than just distributing the vouchers. So the residents bring the vouchers in and then we just bring it up as like a coupon instead of cash or check. Another thing that we discussed is appliance recycling. I know the city worked with Efficiency United, and I believe that contract is ending. And so that's something to keep in mind, whether you guys want to continue to provide incentives for appliance recycling moving into the future with that contract ending. I'm going to briefly cover Next Cycle Michigan. So Next Cycle Michigan is a business incubator for the state of Michigan. They are really trying to encourage new innovative ideas and partnerships in recycling. And so one of the things that there's 6 different tracks, and there is a technology track, but I think the one that may be relevant to the city is there's a public and private partnerships track. So if there's any projects that the city would be interested in regarding recycling or sustainability in general, this program helps connect different players that have ideas that are looking for somebody to follow through with the project and help them connect with funding to follow through with the project as well. So there's grant money, there's investors, there's a whole bunch of different stuff. It's kind of like they call it a innovation track. So you kind of work through, you kind of have a like consultant working with you to help connect all of the dots. So if there were any kind of bigger innovative ideas, this would be a program that could help facilitate a new project. And then that is all I have. Any questions?
Andy, you were saying there was language in your packet, I think, ideas for what people can put in their master plan and things like that. And that's sort of where we are with, I think we've got a couple things that we've talked about adding, but the foundation that you mentioned, is that a website we could get from you, or maybe Larry, you're aware of?
Yeah, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, yeah. So this wording, I can't take credit for that. This is straight off of City of Petoskey's master plan, but it's just an idea on wording. They have a lot of similarities between Harbor Springs and Petoskey, and this is some of the stuff that they just recently put into their master plan. So if you guys are interested in any of it, I'm happy to elaborate on any of it or help connect with the City of Petoskey if you guys have any further questions.
I think just from reading through it before the meeting, some of it would go into our kind of utilities portion, and others would go into the kind of the local economy and parks and whatnot. So it might be something we kind of take from you and then have Larry sort of incorporate into our draft. So, does anybody have any specific questions for Andy or?
Great job.
Thank you.
I have one question. Is there any planned future, I guess, closing that loop, like any more local companies that are looking to get your products, like from the recycling center?
So that is something that we're always working with. I think we've pretty much touched most of the local Michigan companies, but through this next cycle thing, there could be new markets popping up. So for example, we used to recycle our shingles through Payne and Dolan, who does road construction. They no longer have specs for shingles in the roads, but throughout this process, shingles are one of the things that is a target material to try and find more markets for. So shingles could be an example of a market that may be a local market sometime. And same thing with glass. Glass is expensive to transport. So if there's local markets for glass, we'd be more than happy to send it local instead of shipping it down to Chicago.
Thanks.
Andy, am I reading this right, that 97% of what's dropped off there does get used in businesses in Michigan?
So 97% of the materials that we collect curbside or drop sites. So the stuff that's going through our sorting facility does supply Michigan businesses. The other, I mean, the whole transfer station, that's not the case. But for the stuff that goes through our processing facility, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good.
Any other questions for Andy, or should we ask her to sit through the rest of our meeting?
Require it.
Require it.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Appreciate it.
We should really dismiss her.
Yes, right.
Andy, we were just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't have to stay.
No,
You don't have to do anything we say.
All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Master plan, moving on to the discussion of master plan documents, land use approval patterns. Do you want to give kind of a brief summary of that land use approval? That's just a portion of the master plan we've been talking about getting to, so.
Yes, it was something I looked at. I basically added to it from what was there. There wasn't any language in here regarding industrial land, which we do have some zoned and planned. So I added that. I added the whole notion of short-term rentals in here, which wasn't in there previously. The whole concept that the city is essentially built out was in the current master plan, so that's nothing new. Adjusted a few things. We added some opportunities that were not identified in the previous master plan, like in the northeast area, north of Lake Street, west of Hoyt. Several large lots that contain single-family homes. There's a development opportunity there because those may pass eventually to someone else, those properties, and there's opportunity there to potentially assemble some of those properties together. Then the Bluff Garden property, I keep hearing it's so ripe for development, but nothing ever happens over many years, so I don't know all the intricacies of that and the family that owns it, but I'm sure some of you do. But there's another opportunity. So that's basically what we modified in that. It's a supplement that needs to be in the master plan. And so I thought it was one of those easy ones, and I did it after I did the goals and objectives. And I'll pass it on and see if you guys had any thoughts or comments.
I had a thought kind of on dealing with all the materials tonight, because we're kind of getting it down to, obviously we've taken a lot of input, a lot of discussion, and I thought if you guys agree, maybe instead of going line by line through each goal, if each of us sort of, if you have one section that jumped out to you, maybe, talk for a minute or two on that, and then sort of give Larry, I think this is obviously a first draft, so what we're kind of looking for is more of a broad brush as opposed to maybe specific words here and there. There's sort of overall themes that we think after looking at this for so many months that are coming through, too much, not enough, or, I think that might be helpful as opposed to going through each one just sort of, word by word, but I'm happy to do it either way, whatever way you guys think is most efficient. We could try it and see how far we get. I don't know if we get through everything tonight, but at least we give Larry some feedback, and maybe next meeting we can come back with a revision as opposed to getting halfway through H1 and then not being able to really revise the whole document. Does that make sense? Or if you want to go goal by goal, I'm happy to do it either way.
Well, I have just a general comment on this first section, and then we can kind of gestalt the.
And that's sort of what we're looking for, kind of like, okay, well, this section jumping. I think each one of these goals probably, some of them are fairly, utilities and things like that. I don't know that we're gonna, dig too deeply into that and change things, but I'd almost be more interested. I found myself kind of going away from it after I read it a couple of times with more broad ideas than just sort of like, well, this one sentence or this one paragraph. I think that we can get into once we sort of take a broader look at it, if that helps. So kind of your comment, Mary Catherine, about this one section. Well, maybe we start with kind of sections and let's go ahead and jump around if you want. I don't think we have to necessarily go in order later. Would that be helpful to you to get sort of bigger ideas, feedback wise, as opposed to?
Yep. And I guess if you have anything specific and you want to write them down and submit them.
And that's what I thought, maybe
Jeff,
if people have
get it
notes
to me
on
or-
semantics or word, specific words, maybe I think it's okay as far as public meetings go. We can turn things into you, directly and
That's right.
have that worked into the next draft. That helps.
Yeah.
So with that all being awkwardly said, does Mary Catherine, you had a first section that sort of stood out?
Well, in the land use developments, and this is kind of more of a general question, a little bit philosophical, and then an additional comment that's a little bit more specific. When you say the city is essentially built out, is that in the planning world, is that like, sorry, I am brain dead today. I have had way too many things that I'm trying to work on. Is that a term of art,
Yeah.
built out?
Yes. Yes.
Because when you say the city is essentially built out, what that reads to me is, well, nothing else to do, we're done, as opposed to us making some judgments about, is there particular land in the city that is used well, that is used in a way we would like to continue to see it used, or are there places that we feel like could be used better, could be used differently, and we'd like to examine that. Which kind of brings me to the more specific point, which is we've never actually pulled out the land use maps and looked at them as part of this master planning process. And I kind of thought that was something we were going to do, was like print out the big land use maps and like stare at them for a minute and go, yeah, I think that looks like a good use, or no, I think that needs to change, or so I guess that's kind of where I'm at, which maybe feels like something we should have done first. But this feels very conclusory to me when I read this. I feel like, well, I guess there's nothing else for us to do. You've identified a couple of spots and the city's built out, so bam, done.
I take it more as it's a statement of the condition of a fact. And if anything, it may mean you have to be more careful with what you do or more thoughtful about how you do it. If you had endless land where some cities are in the middle of fields and they just keep expanding, if they mess up one part, they just annex the next part of a township and just keep going. So I think it's all the more reason you have to have sort of a real clear vision of what you want, what you like about what you have, which, most of what we have, we like because we're all living here. And then the things that are missing or we have too much of, or, trends are headed a certain way. So I don't like the phrase built out because it ends in a preposition. So, but I think it's to the age of the city and the size of the city, it's
I don't want to get us
built.
bogged down into some giant philosophical discussion again, because I kind of feel like we've been there. But I guess, this already noticed that things have changed kind of in a way that maybe we like, but maybe we don't, but we didn't have a lot of control over, right? Smaller houses getting demolished, big houses built to the edge of the setbacks. Maybe that's where maybe that's something we don't really have any control over, because if you're allowed to do it, you get to do it. That's the end, but the change happened.
Right. And Larry, just because I don't understand fully, the land use development patterns, I assume that's a requirement of any master plan. Is that sort of a statute requirement? So we have to, and it's really just, is it intended to be an accounting of the current conditions more than a vision?
Yes. It basically, this is the mix of land that we have in the city.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a statement of fact.
That's right.
Okay.
And then you describe afterwards what is available for potential development.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with built out because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's true.
Or I mean, we can say
I don't
that.
think it's a way of getting us off the hook for having to think about anything.
No, I think we can still be creative, and we have been with other developments when people come in here, give them, variances and so forth. But this is supposed to be a factual section.
Yes, it is. Yes, this isn't future. This is what it is today. There's very good. I mean, another way of saying built out is limited vacant land for future development.
Yeah.
Well, except that you do make a statement because you say there are areas that are currently underutilized. So
Well, it's virtually built out. There's limited land for future
All right, I guess
development.
then we just need to dive into it when we get to goals, in terms of where we would see potential changes in zoning or potential changes that we would like to see in how properties might be classified if we want to see certain kinds of development. Because given this, if we're saying the city is essentially built out, there's no opportunity for us to
Sure, there's
meet some of the goals that we are looking to unless we
Well, but
change land use
It's
patterns.
limited, but if we have 1,000,000 square feet and 80,000 square feet are built and 10,000 square feet, I messed up my own analogy, are wet. I think it's
But that's not what we're talking
redevelopment more than it is new development.
I hear that, but to me, when I read, that's why I was asking if built out is a term of art. Because then I want to understand what built out means is a term of art in the planning world. Because if it means that it is still available for us to redevelop, to reuse, to reclassify.
I don't think it means off limits. If that-
Then that's fine.
Yeah.
But somebody who just picks this document up, grabs it off the street and reads it is not going to understand that as a term of art. So that was kind of the basis of my question. So we can,
We could say
you
there's
have gotten
limited.
my feedback now.
That's fine. I agree that, that phrase or that sentence hit me kind of hard too. And it sounded like, there's limited opportunity, nothing to do. And whereas we have some ideas about what could come next and that could make existing land more useful. So